Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jeannie Lee. I am an HEV specialist with CDBG, and I will be presenting the webinar on completing the 2024 CDBG application and budget. Some housekeeping items. To ask a question, please click on the Q&A chat bubble to submit a question to the team. Do not put questions in the chat. The chat tends to get flooded and we can miss questions. You may ask questions anonymously, but if you want your name, organization, or region associated with your question, you will need to type it into the Your Name box. The team will be reading questions out loud at the end of the presentation, and all questions will be saved and recorded as part of the public record. In today's webinar, we will be discussing the 2024 application and budget with a live demonstration at the end. The NOFA and application documents can be found under the Files tab of the solicitation page in eCBIS. 2024 sample questions have been placed in the chat box and will be uploaded to our website and the solicitation as soon as it has been remediated for ADA compliance. As a reminder, these questions are a guide and actual application questions may vary. So for the people who have attended my 2023 and 2023A application and budget webinars, this is old information by now, but for those of you joining me for the first time, the 2024 CDBG application is vastly different than previous years. In an effort to continue improving our application, we made changes to our questions for added clarity, removed many duplicative questions, and replaced a lot of verbiage with links and references to NOFA for ease of readability. During the 2023 NOFA cycle, we successfully piloted an application mimicking the 2017 awards, in which we have one standard agreement encompassing all matrix codes a jurisdiction is applying for in a given application cycle. The changes to the application reduce the number of duplicated questions, gives the grantees more flexibility with their funds, and reduces the time it takes to receive a standard agreement for all applications, since there will be fewer applications going through the legal department. So, what does that mean for you? In the 2024 application cycle, each applicant must complete at least 2 applications and 2 budgets to be considered to have submitted a complete application. Applicants must complete 1 main application, which will have overarching questions, and at least 1 sub-application, which will have specific to the matrix code. Again, a complete application consists of 1 main application and at least 1 sub-application. So, the application. What do I mean by main application and sub-application? Let's break down the 2 applications. The main application houses the standard agreement between HCD and the grantee. The goal of the main application is to capture any overarching questions applicable to the jurisdiction regardless of the matrix code. The idea being that applicants will only need to answer these questions once per application cycle rather than in every application. There are 3 components to the main application. We have the eCBIS budget, the main application and threshold form, and the racial equity form. Quick note, the racial equity questions are unchanged from previous years, and then we'll get into the budget in detail on a later slide. Let's focus on the main application and threshold form. This form can be broken down into 3 main sections: contact, threshold, and certification/attestations. As the main application is the umbrella application for the jurisdiction, questions under this form are applicable to the jurisdiction as a whole. For example, the applicant's SAM.gov, TIN, resolution, single audit will be the same across all applications they apply for, regardless of what matrix code they are wanting. As the main application is the umbrella for the 2024 NOFA cycle, It must include the total budgets across all sub-applications. For example, if you are applying for a sub-application for 300,000, another sub-application for 200,000, and another sub-application for 500,000, you will need to report $1 million plus GA under the budget section of the main application. Please take special note. We are asking for the GA NEPA to be included in the main application. This is because the general admin amount will be tied to a jurisdiction rather than a specific matrix code. More on this in the budget later. All right, the sub-application. The sub-application is where we get into the specifics of the activity. The forms in the sub-application pertain to the specific matrix code of the application. I am intentionally using the word matrix code to determine how many sub-applications you will need to complete, as each matrix code will require its own sub-application, meaning a housing or ED economic development program can have multiple matrix codes and will require multiple sub-applications for a complete application. To better understand this concept, let's take a look at an example. All right, so the County of ACD wants to apply for a planning and housing program application. Under the housing program application, the County of HCD is applying for a housing rehab and code enforcement activity. In this example, in order to submit all applications, a complete application for the 2024 application cycle, the County of HCD will need to complete 4 applications. 1 main application and 3 sub-applications. The first application the county will complete is the main application. Then they will complete 1 sub-application for the planning matrix code 21A, and 2 sub-applications for their housing program application. 1 sub-application for matrix 14A and another sub-application for matrix code 15. This will count as 2 out of the 3 allowable applications the County of ACD can apply for in the 2024 NOFA cycle. 1 application under the competitive solicitation for planning and 1 application under the OTC solicitation for housing programs. Now, this may seem like it's a lot more work, but looks can be deceiving. The sub-application has been stripped down so that you are now entering only activity-specific information. For instance, instead of uploading the resolution for every application or answering the racial equity questions for every application you submit, you will now answer these questions only once under the main application. Now let's take a closer look at what makes a sub-application. Generally, the information entered into the sub-application will be unique to each matrix code. Some questions may appear to be repetitive, such as the legislative form, but keep in mind, even though this may be the same for 99% of the applications, there are instances where this could be different depending on the activity type. Next, we have the activity design form. This is where you will detail out what the activity is, your scope of work, national objective, activity description, activity-specific questions, etc. Questions in the activity-specific threshold form should be answered for the matrix code you selected under the activity design form. And lastly, we have activity-specific contact. Whereas the main application collected general contact information, the sub-application's contact form collects activity-specific information, such as who will complete the e-civis report. Let's spend some time on the budget. As stated at the beginning, general admin funds will now be overarching to the jurisdiction rather than individually to the activity. As you will need to enter the jurisdiction's total budget in the main application and the activity-specific budget in each of the sub-applications. This means that you will need to know and plan on what applications you will be submitting at the beginning, since the total budget for the NOFA cycle is reported in the main application. In other words, you will enter the total amount you are requesting for across all applications in the 2024 NOFA cycle, including GA, in the main application, and then break it down in the sub-application by activity amount, not including GA. Since I'm a more visual person, let's take a look at a visual representation of the concept. The big blue circle is the entire amount or budget the jurisdiction is applying for in the 2024 NOFA cycle. This is the amount in your main application. The main application is composed of all the sub-application budgets and GA. The green, orange, gray, and yellow circles are the sub-application budgets. As you can see, there's only one spot for GA in the main application. As a reminder, work done directly on a CDBG specific activity should be charged to activity delivery or activity, whereas general upkeep of the program, such as the NOFA webinars, office hours, etc., should be charged to GA. Theoretically, grantees should have very little GA cost. A quick slide on how to calculate GA. The max GA is 7%, 17 for PI, program income, of the total activity budget, which is not to be confused with the total award budget. To assist in calculating the max GA amount, we have included Appendix G General Admin Calculator to the NOFA. This has been uploaded to the Files tab of the solicitation as well as our website. So for this year, we have pre-populated the budget tables for you in eService. With the exception of future anticipated program income, please do not add any tables or rows to the budget. You do not need to break down the budget in this table, as this information should be in the activity description, the sources and uses chart, and the budget narrative of the sub-application. Please leave the units, unit cost, extended cost, and GL code. Item type must be direct cost. This has been pre-populated for you, so please do not change this. You will be entering your values only under the costs column in the budget. Side note, you're not required to break down the budget by activity and activity delivery. We have added the activity delivery line as most of our grantees are used to seeing this. However, our recommendation is that you do not break down the budget down by activity and activity delivery. Our recommendation is to only enter amounts under activity, GA, and program income as applicable. So a summary. General admin belongs in the main application, main budget, not the sub-budget. The narrative for the budget belongs in the sub-budget and not the main budget. If you need to enter you need to enter the total amount in the main budget and only the activity amount in the sub-budget. A few tips, tricks, and reminders. Applicants must submit a main application and at least one sub-application. Drafts will not be accepted, no exceptions. The eService budget must be the first thing you complete. This is particularly important for the sub-application. Once you complete the first form of the sub-application, you will not be able to edit the budget. A tip is to enter the program description as one of your first questions so you can differentiate the applications. A complete application consists of one main application and at least one sub-application. You will receive an automated email confirmation from eCivis stating that the application has been submitted. You must receive that confirmation email for every application you submit, at least two. I highly encourage you to reach out to your rep or the CDBG inbox for confirmation of receipt. Let's say, for example, if you are applying for only one project, you must receive two email confirmations. If you are applying for a project and a housing program with two matrix codes, you must receive at least 4 email confirmations. If you do not receive the email confirmation, your application has not been submitted and will not be reviewed. The official submission date time of an application is the time once both a main and a sub-application is submitted, whichever is later. Meaning if you submit a sub-application on November 1st, but you do not submit the main application until November 14th, your submission date is November 14th. Once a main application is submitted, every subsequent sub-application will have a submission date time of the respective sub-application. If you run into any technical issues with the application, you must receive or you must email the CDBG inbox with a description of the issue as well as any applicable screenshots and receive a confirmation email prior to the application deadline. We highly discourage waiting until the last minute to submit an application in case you do run into any technical issues. Last but not least, I said it before, but I'll say it again since it's that important. Drafts will not be accepted. No exceptions here. All right, let's go on to the live demo. Hopefully everyone can see my screen here. This is where all the applications will be listed. As you see here, we have the 2024 CDBG main as well as the CDBG sub application. What you'll do is to apply is to click on one of these, and then there will be a apply button right around here once the application opens. Since the application is not yet open, that button is not there. So once you hit the apply, you'll be redirected to the eCivis portal page. You'll want to create an account if you don't already have an account. But if you do have an account, just log into your portal login, not the Grants Network login, the portal login. For most people, it'll take you directly to this page since for demonstration purposes, I already started an application. So once you hit create application, you will be brought into a login page, a secondary login page. You'll log in with your credentials again. Again, portal login, not the eCivis login. You'll log in again. You'll fill out the profile. It's only 3 questions, your name and email address. And then there will be a box here with a plus sign that says create application. And that is how you start the application. But prior to starting this, if you go to the bottom of the screen, you see application budget. This is the first thing you'll want to complete. You'll hit the 3 little pancake stack here and click edit budget. And as you'll see here, you have 3 main categories. You have budget items, other, program income. No, and narrative, sorry. You'll click on the blue hyperlinks to expand all of these. So if we look here under activity, like in this screenshot, we have activity, activity delivery, and program income. You'll want to put your values here in the cost column. So if you just click on it, you can type in any number. And let's say you did $100,000 of PI. GA, under general administration, you will want to put how much you are requesting for in general admin. Only general admin. There's a section that says other. Please do not use this section. It even has a table that says do not use. And then lastly, we have the program income section. This is where you will be putting any future anticipated program income. To include any future anticipated program income, what you do is click on this cog right here, and you're going to add a table. Do not add a subcategory, you want to add a table. And what you'll do is type in future anticipated program income, same as your description, and enter whatever value you have for your future anticipated program income. And then what you'll do is save your changes. And once you have completed your budget, you will return to application. Log in again. Portal login, not the eService login. Click on your application and click open to start any of the forms. So as you will see here, there's a specific question I do want to point out. It's the enter the program year followed by jurisdiction. Please follow this naming convention. This is how we will differentiate all the applications. So for this NOFA cycle, it'll be 2024, your jurisdiction type, and then the jurisdiction name. And then as explained in the webinar, we have tried to reduce the amount of verbiage you see for each question and have just linked you to the NOFA. So if you click on any blue link here, it'll redirect you to that document. And in this case, it is the NOFA. And then I believe that is everything on there. I do recommend up at the very top here, clicking save as draft. It's free to save. You don't have to pay every time you save. I recommend saving as many times as you possibly can. eService does time out, so if you don't save as you go, your progress can be lost. I also recommend having typing out your questions in a Word doc and then copying and pasting your responses to the application in case there are glitches with the timeout, and save a copy of any of the documents you upload. Let's see. I believe I hit all the stuff on the live demo. Going back to the PowerPoint. Alrighty. Before we move on to the Q&A, a few reminders. If you are applying under the 2024 NOFA, please leave your name and your jurisdiction's name in the chat for attendance. Please ask all questions in the Q&A chat, in the Q&A instead of the chat box. The application opens Tuesday, October 24th, 2024 at 9 a.m. PDT, and the deadline is Monday, December 30th, 2024 at 3 p.m. PST. Should you have any questions, please email the CDBG inbox at cdbg@hcd.ca.gov. Thank you, and we'll start taking questions.
All right, I'll be reading the questions. First one from Lori Adams. Application questions have been uploaded to the chat. I missed what was said there.
Let me know if you don't see the application questions. It should be at the very top of the chat box. I can repost them if you guys don't see them.
Next question is from Jeff Lucas. In this sample, which sub-app is the project and which is the program?
I want to say, Jeff, you are referring to, let me go to the slide. That's the budget, sub application. I'm assuming you're referring to this slide. Our example does not have any projects. Our example has a planning grant and a housing program application. I'm sorry, planning application and a housing program application. The planning will be under competitive, housing program will be under OTC.
Next question comes from Claudia Becerra. Will these slides or a recording of the presentation be available to view after?
Claudia, yes, the slides and presentation will be available. However, it will take some time to get uploaded to our website and YouTube channel, as it needs to be remediated before it's uploaded. We will let you know during office hours once it has been uploaded. Thank you.
Next question is from anonymous attendee. If you are making an application under OTC, prior to the competitive process and submit the budget based on this, and then you decide not to submit under the competitive portion or change it, is there an issue if there is a change? I believe this may be referring to the GA.
Let me take a stab at this question, and if I didn't answer your question, please let us know. If let's say you over budgeted on the main application and you decide not to apply for one of the applications, we will ask you to correct the budget if you are awarded. I hope that answers your question.
Next question from anonymous attendee. Budgets can change during the application process. Completing first and then completing the application does not lend itself to allowing us to review the application for accuracy, as we will not want to complete the application until we have this item totally confirmed. Can this be changed?
The application. Sorry, let me reread the question here. Unless someone else wants to take a stab at that question,
Thank you, Jeannie. I'm trying to understand the question. I know that you're saving the budget. You're not actually submitting the budget. So if you're going through the application process and you haven't reached the official submission button, you should be able to make changes. I'm assuming that's what's the ask. If I'm left field, please let me know.
Thank you. Next question from Amy Augustine. If one is applying for an EV grant under 18A, 18B, and 18C, is this 3 sub-apps?
Yes, Amy, that would be considered 3 sub-applications and 1 main application.
Next question comes from anonymous attendee. For the profile under who is this, is the mayor or the person completing the application?
It will be the
Completed.
it will be the person completing the application.
Next question, Deborah Swartz. When will we get the application questions? When will we be able to access the application?
Application questions should be at the top of the webinar chat, and the application opens on October 29th at 9 a.m.
Anonymous attendee asks, what if we log in using eCivis currently? Will this cause an issue?
I'm not quite sure what the question is here.
During the presentation, you were saying
Uh-huh.
to use the portal login and rather than the eCivis login.
The eCivis login, you shouldn't be able to log in under eCivis. It's a separate account. You will run into errors, I believe, if you try to log in as eCivis instead of portal.
Jeannie, you are correct. Some grantees may have an eCivis account for other reasons. So yes, please log into the portal to avoid any issue because it is a separate account.
Thank you both. Anonymous attendee asks, for the budget, is the amount listed under activity budget for the program income that you actually have on hand that is being committed to that activity? And then what is listed under the program income section of the budget is anticipated program income only?
Yes, that is correct.
Marie Balesta asks, is there a resource for applicants to find and hire consultants to aid the application process?
We do not have a resource for that.
And I can add to that, we don't have a list of consultants to aid, but I know that if you reach out to other grantees, they can probably give you some suggestions and directions on where you can get assistance. So crowdsourcing here, if someone can help provide some resources. And can we just go back to the PI? I know, question, Tanner, real quick.
Sure.
If you're going to use cash on hand or anticipated PI funds onto the application, it's very, very important that you have completed your reporting with us for PI. Here at HCD, we have a PI only reporting solicitation for you to be able to report your PI, and we will check for that at the time of application review. So it's very important that you have validated that you have the PI cash on hand available to support your budget.
Thank you for that additional point, Amy. Amy Bergstrom asks, if I am submitting an application for 3 activities, 1 OTC and 2 competitive, but also a PI only application, do I include it in the main app budget or do I complete an entirely separate app for PI only?
So PI only is a separate application in of itself. It has nothing to do with this main sub application.
So she would submit a separate PI only application, which is now
Correct.
available.
Correct. Thank you, Tanner. Oh, and I do want to say I re-uploaded the sample application questions to the chat. I'm having issues with re-uploading the main application questions, but we'll work on that.
Thank you, Jeannie. Randy Caparasso asks, what happens with the GA budget if the jurisdiction was planning on submitting 4 applications, 3 sub-applications, but only submit 2 sub-applications?
Hi, Brandy. We will have you do a correction of the main application budget once we are at the awarding stage or conditional correction stage.
All right, thank you. Janet Reese asks, application questions need to be uploaded again. I was waiting to be let in since before too, and they are not in my chat. They should be in your chat now. Amelia Broadnax asks, when you say housing program, what types of housing programs?
I will refer you to our NOFA. In our NOFA, we do list out the matrix code that's eligible under housing programs.
Randy Caparasso asks, does the main application budget have to match the resolution budget?
Yes, Brandy, the main application budget is the one that will match the resolution budget. The resolution budget can be more than the main application budget. It just can't be less than the main application budget. We always do recommend overestimating, so we don't have to go back to council to get, or yeah, council to get any resolution signed in case the budget is increased.
Anonymous attendee asks, I do not see the application. Sorry, excuse me. They should be in the chat now.
We got, thank
Should
you.
scan these for. An anonymous attendee asks, is the anticipated program income based on when the grant will be active or the current fiscal year?
Uh,
I can answer that.
Thank you, Tanner.
So you can include anticipated program income in your budget that you anticipate to get during the course of your contract term. Jose Vasquez asks, since the application does not open until October 29th, does this mean a draft application on eCivis cannot be started? Or please clarify how an applicant can get started before October 29th.
And I can take that, Tanner. An applicant cannot start before October 29th. The application will open on October 29th for you to get started. Thank you.
Paul Ashby asks, regarding the anonymous question on budget, Jeannie stated to complete the budget first, as once you start the activity questions, you can't go back and do it, or something to do that with that. So can you edit the budget as necessary until you submit?
Can you edit the budget as necessary until you submit? For the main application, yes, you can edit the budget as necessary until you submit. The issue comes with the sub application. There is the first initial form where you'll be answering the first question. And after you do that, you will not be able to edit the sub application budget.
Thank
I
you.
hope that answers your question, Paul.
Brandy Caparasso asks, so following up on Anonymous's budget question, if the budget is determined to be entered incorrectly, it can be changed before the application is submitted, including the narrative. I believe that was a yes, right, Jeannie?
But and as a reminder, you should not be entering a narrative in the main application budget. You should only be entering a narrative in the sub application budget.
Anonymous attendee asks, would a jurisdiction be able to change a portion of program income from one activity to another during this application process?
I'm not sure if I can handle this question.
I think I can take a stab at it. Would a jurisdiction be able to change a portion of program income from one activity to another during this application process? So as long as you haven't submitted the sub-application, I believe you can apply that program income to any of your activities. And then in terms of after the fact, after contract execution, I believe we may be able to move the program income into certain activities, but not all. So hopefully that answers your question.
And just to add to that, this is one of the pro of having a main and sub application, because having those incomes That information on the sub-application gives us at the program level the flexibility to update those budgets a little bit easier than what we had before. So just a pro of having a main and a sub-application. It gives us a little bit more flexibility.
Thanks, Mamie. Jeff Lucas asks, can you folks give us an example of a program and of a project so we can meet the application criteria? Thank you.
Jeff, can you be a little bit more specific? I'm not quite understanding your question, what you're asking.
And Jeff, I believe everything is outlined in the NOFA, what qualifies as a program and what qualifies as a project.
Mm-hmm.
Anonymous attendee asks, you indicated the application questions were posted at the beginning of the chat, but they are not there. Sorry, they are now there in the chat. You should be able to see them. Okay. Let's see. One moment. Sorry for the awkward pause. Roxanne Kuhner asks, I have a client that started a PI report and before they submitted, it disappeared. They don't have an option to submit a new one. Thoughts on how to resolve?
Roxanne, I recommend either having your client either reach out to their rep, or if they don't have a rep, to the CDBG inbox. This sounds like we need to do more troubleshooting than we have time for here. Thank you.
Lori Adams asks, okay, just to confirm on the question earlier on the budget, the main application budget can be updated.
Lori, the main application budget can be updated until you hit submit. Once you hit submit, I mean, you've submitted the application, so you won't be able to edit the budget.
Randy Caporasso asks, will adjusting the budget affect the competitive application scoring if the competitive not awarded or not submitted and the competitive is?
Let me try to take a stab at this question, Brandon, and hopefully I can answer what you're saying. So the budget you're putting in the main application should be for all the applications you're putting in for the 2024 NOFA cycle, competitive and OTC. If you are awarded one application but not the others, we will ask you to make the correction to the main application budget during the conditional award phase.
Lori Adams asks, on the resolution, can you have someone other than the mayor sign the fund requests?
Then the mayor. Hi, Lori. Yes, there is a section on the resolution where you can designate who can sign the funds request. I do not remember it off the top of my head, but I believe the question is broken down in the sample application questions.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, Jeannie, thank you. And I would actually also like to recommend that you view the resolution webinar on our website that's already posted as well, and that'll help let you know where to put that information.
Thank you. Anonymous attendee says, I closed the chat and reopened and the questions appeared. Well, that's very good. Thank you for that feedback. Lori Adams says, obviously this budget item is a concern. Budgets should be allowed to update all the way through submittal. This is a consensus here. I think we've established that, but budgets can be edited all the way up to submittal. Randy Caporasso asks, the sub-application budget cannot be corrected after it is initially completed, whether or not the sub-application has been submitted. Question, sorry, I did not read that as a question.
So I think it might be easier if I showed this as an example. One moment, please. Ooh, sorry, where did it go? There it is. Bear with me, give me just a minute and let me see if I can't get to the screen for you guys. In the application. I'm hoping everyone can see my screen. It's the eService application.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Tanner. All right, we'll just log in here. Oh, by the way, this is what the create new application button looks like. And this is how you add applications or start your initial one by clicking add or create, I believe, when you start your first one. So for the sub application, you do have this initial form that says the form name is application type, in which you will answer the question if this is an OTC or competitive application. Once you answer this question and hit continue to application, that is when you won't be able to edit the budget anymore. So you'll want to edit the budget before you hit the continue button. I hope that answers everyone's questions about the budget. The main application budget does not have that initial form, so it can be updated throughout the process.
Okay, those were all the questions. Oh, well, one more came in. Lori Adams says, okay, so that shows the sub budget is not updatable once you open the application.
Not updatable once you open the sub application. Once you get to the next screen, yes. I'm thinking you're, what was it? Go into Mark complete. And then continue to application. At this point, you shouldn't be able to edit the budget unless there's a update to each service that I am not aware of.
Brandy says, so what happens if the sub-application budget is entered incorrectly? Should we abandon the sub-application and start a new one?
Please reach out to the CDBG inbox and we should be able to troubleshoot that for you, Brandy.
Lori asks, is there a reason that this is not being allowed?
This is an e-service limitation, not a decision programmatically.
Thanks.
Before we go on, I just want to make sure everybody knows I did re-drop in the application questions and information that Jeannie had dropped in earlier. Apparently there was trouble downloading. So please let us know if these are also not accessible, and we'll see if we can figure it out.
We'll give everyone a few more minutes to ask any more questions. I think I see a hand up from Deborah. Deborah, do you still have a question? Or has your question been answered? Deborah, I still see your, okay, your answer was, okay. I will lower your hand. Thank you, Deborah. Alrighty, seeing as there are no more questions, I'm thinking we can end our webinar. Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. We will try to get this uploaded as soon as possible to our YouTube channel. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.